Just call this fever for complaint-free world.org. And we say no more complaining people.
So today we're going to jumpstart practice. By that I mean we're going to conclude our conversation about Unity's 5 basic principles. Unity, as I mentioned, is the faith in which I'm ordained. Unity is a non-proselytizing religion. Most religions are proselytizing. What that means is that most religions are out there to try and get other people to come into their ranks. Unity does not believe in doing that. Unity is based solely in improving individuals' lives so that they then go out and are models to other people who then often seek to find out how that person, kind of got themselves put back together. So before I get into today's, which is P, remember I came up with an acronym, not an acronym. Well, I guess you could call it. It's a mnemonic device. One clap to remember Unity's 5 basic principles. 1, there is one presence and one power in my life and in the university, God the good omnipotent. That's the first principle. The second principle is see the Christ within. If God is everywhere, then God is also within every single person, both you and me. And to the extent that we live that, we are happier, healthier, wealthier, and we make this a heaven on earth. The L stands for law of mind action, also known as the law of attraction. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. What you are thinking about now is going to be your reality in the future. And so it is so important to be assiduous with your thoughts. The A stands for affirmative prayer. Unity believes that Jesus, and there's many examples in the Bible, prayed by giving thanks for what he had, not asking for something that he did not have. He gave thanks in advance, and as a result, it multiplied. So now, I mentioned to you that someone gave me a Unity prayer book from the 1940s. And I opened it up and it said Unity's principles. And I remembered, I think I said there was 30 in there. If I'm not mistaken, it was 63. I've been thinking about this and it was just a list. And one of them, interestingly, because I'm a vegan, was vegetarianism. That Unity took that out later on. The interesting thing was, now, so imagine that you've got 63 principles that you want people to try and improve their lives by. And I'm sure that what happened was there was only a handful, and then people started adding things. And then someone in the 1950s said, you know what, we've got to cut these down. That's too many. People aren't remembering. By the way, have you ever noticed that when you see bulleted items, bullet points or something like that, that there are often 5 or sometimes if there's many as 10, but it's usually 3, 5, 10, because odd numbers, we have an odd number of fingers. It's easy for us to remember things. That's the reason. You ready for this? I've heard it said many times that that's the reason there are 10 commandments. We have 10 fingers. So it would be like, thou shalt not have any gods before me, thou shalt not, okay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there are 5 principles. They went down from 60 plus to 5. Now, the 5th one, imagine all the things they left out. But think about this, because this principle that I'm sharing with you today was not even in the original 60. I remember that because I compared the lists. A lot of the original stuff got whittled into the first 4. This was new. This is pivotal. And whether or not you're into Unity, it is the one thing that is essential for everything in our life, and that is practice. Practice. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Remember the story of, I think it was Heifetz, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody was walking by down in New York City, some famous violinist, and was supposedly asked, how do you get to Carnegie Hall by a tourist? And he replied, practice, practice, practice. We so often know what we need to do. The challenge is getting ourselves to do it. Can I get a hell yeah? And yet, that is what we have to do to get ourselves to become anything that we want to become in ourselves. We want to behold oneness in the world and in ourselves. You got to practice that. You've got to practice that. You've got to stop seeing duality. In the duality, you've got to start seeing singularity. You've got to see the good that can come out of the bad and believe in it. You want to practice the Christ within yourself and within everyone else. That is the spiritual divine. Don't get caught up in the word, by the way. The divine within yourself and the divine within everyone. Wow. Get started, especially with yourself. I mean, to really notice the spiritual being that you are and the power that you have and that others are as well. You want to develop a relationship with the universe that brings things to you so that you can manifest what you do want rather than what you don't want. Well, affirmative prayer will do it. You just got to do it. Practice, practice, practice. This to me is one of the coolest things, if not the coolest things, about Unity's 5 basic principles, whether or not you choose to believe in them, follow them, whatever. It's that out of 60 something, they whittled it down to 5. And out of that 5, one of them was, oh, by the way, we actually whittled it down to 4, and none of it counts if you don't do this stuff, if you don't actually do it. How are you doing it? How are you doing, rather, with your doing it? How are you doing with getting yourself to practice what it is that you know? It's an uphill climb. I'll tell you the truth. And it's intended to be. Can you imagine if you walked into the gym and let's say your arms are flabby and you want to boost your arms? And if you walked in and you picked up, I'm going to use my phone here, but if you picked up a dumbbell and you did a curl like this one time and it wasn't resistant at all, and your arm just sort of pumped up like this, doesn't work that way. Life doesn't work that way. Life works through the effort of putting in the practice. So, how do successful people get themselves to put things into practice? Number one, believe it or not, you're going to hear some very basic things here. Make a list. So, regardless of whether or not this is a spiritual thing, if you want to meditate, make a list, know what it is that you're going to do that particular day. I have mine actually on a post it note for a reason this morning, and it's underneath my laptop right here. Make a list of what's important and what it is you want to get done that day. The other thing is stick to it. And anything that comes up has to get added to the list. Those are just some very basic things. But make sure that you put in there the things that you want to practice that are essential to life, not just like when I finish here, one of the things I'm going to do is go start the laundry. I need to do the laundry, but I didn't want to have it running while we were talking today. Make a list, follow the list, and you feel a lot less pressure because otherwise it's all this amorphous stuff that's piling on to you. And one of the most important things you can do is to make a list to make a list to add to your list, rather, to add to your list. I saw a couple of things popped away there. To add to your list the things that are essential, such as meditation, taking time to meditate, taking time to exercise. You know, exercise doesn't take time and it doesn't take energy. It gives both of those things. When you do it regularly, you discover that it gives you more time, it gives you more energy. So, listen, I truly believe it's a wonderful concept for us to focus on the oneness in the world, especially now. Especially now. If you are an ardent supporter of Donald Trump and cannot understand why the left wing media is doing this, understand that everybody whom you want to vilify is actually a good person who you would consider to be misinformed. If you are a Biden supporter and you're having trouble understanding Trump supporters and an unwillingness to accept an election, etc., you understand that these people are one with you. There's no difference. They are just informed in a different way, raised in a different way. The oneness remains. I think I'll leave it with that today. Let me check some of your comments. And remember, one of the best things you can do is join us for meditation at complaintfreemeditation.com. That's complaintfreemeditation.com. I have said for years, Ed Wilmot says, success in life requires practice, performance, and persistence. That is absolutely the truth. One of the things that I always say, and I stole from my last yoga teacher, is that yoga is cumulative. If you do yoga on a daily basis, it's cumulative. Meditation is cumulative. You're going to get way more out of meditating every day for 20 minutes for 10 days than trying to sit and meditate for 4 hours. That's almost an impossibility. It's like trying to, I'm going to go run a marathon. We need to do a little bit of everything that's important to us every single day. And our egos, remember I said it's an uphill climb? Your ego is going to try and sabotage you. Period. Full stop. Your ego is going to try and sabotage you, and other people will try and sabotage you as well. Because the people around you will make poor health choices, and as a result, health choices or any kind of choice, spiritual choice, whatever, you need to do you. Okay? You need to do you. I read a report about the U.S. Air Force did a study to try and find out about the fitness levels of their cadets. And they found that the one thing that determined how fit a graduating class was the lowest, not the highest, the lowest fitness level of one of the cadets in the class. In other words, the least fit cadet. You had somebody who was really, really unfit, then the entire class would come out less fit than other classes. You need to be aware of that. We are energetic beings. Don't let other people's choices and their practices dictate yours. You do you and do the highest and best you can. And what you'll do is you'll inspire other people. I'm going to leave you with this story real quick. Here where I live, there's this beautiful swimming pool, and there are a lot of people who get in it with their swim noodles, and they float around all day, which is awesome. I mean, they come from where it's hot, and they come down, cold rather, and they come down here where it can be hot even this time of year, and they're floating around and everything, right? And I call them pool manatee because that's kind of what they look like. They're just bobbing around like a manatee, right? Has nothing to do with their size. Anyway, what I've noticed is that when I go down to swim my laps, if there's a couple of people in there and they're just floating around, if I start swimming laps back and forth, they all of a sudden will start like bouncing, like exercising with their noodles. They're no longer just floating, they're now exercising. And what changed? I was there. I was doing my practice. And because I was there, it inspired them as well. You are always inspiring or being inspired or being uninspired by the people you're around. So do you. Put you into practice and don't let other people knock you off course. All right? Hey, I am so excited. We actually got through this today using this brand new software, and I think it turned out fairly well, actually. So I am looking forward to being with you again tomorrow, and we'll be live at 8 o'clock in the morning for those of you, Eastern time, rather. And for those of you who meditate with me, I'll see you in 5 minutes, complaintfreemeditation.com. Bye-bye, everybody. Enjoy today.
Just call this fever for complaintfreeworld.org. And we say no more